Hello, Scrappy Peeps. It's Freeze Friday again on Saturday. And the reason I waited until Saturday, usually the reason I wait until Saturday is because I want to include the layout that I do on Saturdays for Scrap Squad Sunday. It's based on the Scrap Squad lift that's put out on Friday, and I hopefully can begin to get those done on Friday and share those on Friday. But that's not what I did this week. So that layout that I just filmed is this one, and I'm not gonna leave it on for too long. There's a lot that isn't dry on here. I covered a hibiscus flower with some glossy accents, and it has to dry. So I'm gonna kind of take it off. When I publish it tomorrow, I'll have the finished layout photographed outside in really good light. So this huge stack of layouts that I'm gonna leave in reverse order, and I'll review them that way. This stack of layouts was mostly done for the Secret Not Secret Kit Club weekend scrap party, and there were, let's see how many challenges there were. 29 challenges. Not all of those were layout challenges, but for one of the challenges, the Grab 5, I did a whole mini book, and I don't have the mini book here, so let me run over and grab it real quick. It's not a sophisticated work of art by any stretch of the imagination. It's was kind of a downer to do it. But it's, and I'll review it first. I had these parking tickets and the name tags from days that we visited Ava in Children's Hospital. And it was all, it was what our Christmas was about, was visiting Ava, because she was in the hospital the whole Christmas holidays, past New Year's, and from, a week before Christmas to January 12th. And during that time, we almost lost her twice, and it was just a horrible experience. So I made this little book with 6x6 pads, lots of embellishments that came in the, I didn't do a lot of Christmas scrapbooking, but I had signed up for some kits, and so I'm using a mix of those. This is even a Christmas tree cut off of a bag that we got from a store we shopped in. There's some photos here of Ava. What I did was, for the date that was on the name tag, I used photos that we took that day. This was on Christmas Day. I put my Santa Claus sweater on and we visited her, and she was tired of smiling, so she made a kind of a growling look. Here she was, this was before she got really sick with pneumonia. The LSU football team came by, and she's a huge LSU fan. So that's kind of what all of this is. This is when she was in getting some breathing treatments. They weren't sure if she had pneumonia or not. This was a page that I did around that time. This was a picture of her sleeping. This is a picture of her in a coma. And, this was me in the hospital, and from my hospital room window, I could see the hospital that Ava was in, and this is a photo that her dad took of her that day. So this is not a, necessarily a happy thing. I've got the story on the last page, and then I have some other name tags, name tags that we got on other visits from the year that she was back and forth at the hospital. She still goes back and forth to the hospital for checkups now, but everything's looking good, and she's fine, gaining weight. Certainly concern in these times with the coronavirus going around, but she we're taking the necessary precautions. So after showing that, I'll go through the layouts and I'll talk about my spending. This is one that was mostly digital. I did, I'm not going to tell you what each of the challenges was. This one was, kind of inspired by a book, and the book I'm working on right now is this Tales from Margaritaville, and this is a photo from Margaritaville Beach Hotel, and by now we would have probably made 3 trips there this year and have a couple more planned, but it'll be a while apparently. So this is, like I said, mostly digital. I brought in some digital supplies there, and then I scanned the book, cut that out, used a few stickers from an Amy Tangerine sticker book. And so that was that. Let me kind of start stacking these over here. This is one for a rainbow challenge, and I had this white cut file, and I used different colors of distress oxides, and I used some really colorful filtered photos of the kids at the pool. So this is kind of summer dreamer. I'm dreaming of maybe being able to get back to that. This one was one for a challenge where we were stamping on top of mixed media, and I used stamps on top of some distress oxide that I matched to the color yellow there. This was one of Katie's senior pictures. This is the one that's going in the yearbook. And so I did a class of 2020 page. This one was for a challenge about our current stash of quarantine goodies. So our quarantine stash, the 5 ones pictured here are paper towels, bathroom tissue, white cardstock, page protectors, and hand sanitizer. And the white cardstock is part of my spending revelation. I ran out of white cardstock except really flimsy stuff that I use for die cutting. And so I got this. And it's the first time I've gotten the textured white cardstock, but because that's what Paige Evans uses for cutting her cut files, I thought I'd stock up on it. So that was my big expense. While I'm at it, I may as well say, this I subscribe to. I get these every month. Those are refills for my Easy Runner Grand. And at the same exact time, I ran out of ink in my black pens and my white pens. So I got 5, I guess that's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 white pens, and I got 12 black pens, and they're Signo Uniball. These are a much sharper tip. These are a more medium tip so that the ink really flows, and they work really, really well. It's my favorite, but you can kind of see, maybe you can't see, but it's beginning to skip, so I know it's close to out of ink. So I replenished those. And that's pretty much all I spent. Can't tell you how much it is. I forget what the costs were. Anyway, this is I took the photo. It wasn't a particularly interesting photo of the boxes piled up in my husband's workshop. And so I filtered it a couple times to get a couple things. Used, cut out some old Amy Tangerine stuff, used it on top of this paper that kind of talks about laughing and make someone's day, and it has this kind of stampy looking heart on it. It's a good, it's interesting to read the paper there too. This was for Mixed Media Frenzy this week, where I followed the technique that Sandy Reversky, State Goddess, showed at the Secret Not Secret in a live that she did for Secret Not Secret party. And I kind of went overboard because I wanted this to look like tire tracks. And the original that we were lifting was a very ornate, beautiful Prima page, and I kind of went a different direction. The only flowers I have on it are these. And I just used bits and pieces from my How to Kill a Kit with Style kit, and there's a lot of Vicki Boutin in here, and I think that's, I don't know, crate paper and some other stuff. This one is kind of a funny one. It was kind of done tongue-in-cheek. It's a, I forget what the challenge was. Let me see. Oh, it was the Mercy Tiara. Sorry, did this one for Challenge Accepted. It was a Mercy Tiara mood board. And I kind of, when I looked at it, I thought that looked like a game board. And I had this, these photos printed. I've probably had them printed for 2 or 3 months and hadn't scrapped them yet, of Ava playing with a SpongeBob SquarePants game. And I thought these perspectives from Bramble Fox looked like game pieces, so that's kind of how I'd end this. Amy Tangerine paper was in my How to Kill a Kit with Style kit, as were all of these papers that are backing the photo, and so I just kind of used it as a game board. This one is a the challenge here was to use a particular color palette and some stamps from Simon Hurley. And I am sorry to say I do not own any Simon Hurley products. So I picked my own stamps. I found a Vicki Boutin pre-made background, and I inked over it to make the reddish stripes kind of look more red. And I didn't quite match the red in his baseball cap there. But I found a bunch of stamps that I went over, and I found a glittery, I did some mixed media, some glitter paste through a Tim Holtz stencil. And kind of, the color palette that he prescribed was a kind of reddish, orangish, reddish, deep coral kind of color, and yellow, and this teal. And I had these fabric-y bits that I actually, my son's ex-wife's mother was a scrapbooker, and she passed away, and her supplies stayed around until my then daughter-in-law gave them to me. And this, these are all from a single card of that ribbon. So that completed the color palette. This next one was to use a wreath as a major design element, and I cheated, of course, and used this gorgeous Cocoa Vanilla Studios wreath, but I took it up a notch by cutting these flowers off of another cut file that had some triangle-y pieces to it. And I have this picture of my sister with Ava when she was a baby. And sadly, I think that's how Patrice still thinks of Ava, because she hasn't seen her lately. She has seen her several times since this when we went to visit her, but she still kind of calls her baby Ava, and she calls Barrett baby Barrett too. So this was for a challenge where we had to put something upside down our page. And I'd had a couple comments about the fact that the poster I made for the yard, for the happy birthday poster for Katie, kind of looked like a Calvinball page. So I filtered the photo twice. These are 2 different filters. This one has a little bit more beige in it, and this one has a little bit more white, but they're very similar, and I kind of wanted that. I wanted this one to look like a reflection of that one. And so I did a page that you can turn completely upside down. It's the title of this one says, "An Awesome Happy Birthday Poster," or a really big Calvinball page. And so on the happy birthday side of it, I have some birthday-related embellishments. When you turn it upside down, I've got miscellaneous things that were Calvinball rules. So that's kind of, that was a fun page to do. And I used bits of a wreath cut file that I had used the rest of on a couple of other layouts, and just used papers that were in my How to Kill a Kit with Style kit. This one was based on a page. It was Scraplift a member, and the member was Stacy White, and she had done this beautiful metallic watercolor background that I thought was gorgeous, and then this really beautiful cluster down here by the photo. And so I lifted her, and this is I used colors of Distress Oxides and then sprayed them with water to get the kind of drippy look, and then I splattered on some let's see, I don't have it. Yeah, some Pink Fresh Studios liquid watercolor to make some of the bigger splotches, and then some, let's see, walnut ink to get the, to get the brown splotches. It's antiquing solution, and I use it for all kinds of things, but never antiquing for some reason. And I have a picture of Ava when she was a baby and a Hard Rock Cafe t-shirt that she got at Barrett's birthday party in September of '09. She was just a little over a year old. And then this is a picture of her with her guitar, which she's teaching herself to play, and she's specifically trying to play One Direction songs. So that was a fun one to do. This one was one about adding texture, and I added texture in a way that I probably will never add texture again. I had this beautiful cut file, and I backed it with some pretty cocoa vanilla paper, and then I went over it with stencils and two different products, texture paste and liquid glass or glass beads, I guess it's called. And then I did some watercoloring on some of the flower buds, and then I put the whole cut file on a background, and then I went over with some of the glass beads and texture paste mixed over some of these, hoping that they would curl and kind of be glossy. And they're curly and glossy, but also very messy looking. So this is not one of my very favorite things, but those are my guys, and they are my favorite guys, so that counts for something, right? And then this one is one where there were blind instructions. It was a secret recipe challenge, and the recipe was given to us. And I kind of obeyed the recipe to a point, and then I started over seasoning things. But I haven't seen what the original was that we were supposed to look like. But I have to say I love this layout. This is Katie and Barrett on their first trip to Disney World. And this one is this is a layout. I'm not sure what the challenge was. Oh, currently I'm cooking Thanksgiving food for John's birthday because that's his favorite meal ever. Currently, I'm scrapping Secret Not Secret Scrap Party challenges, and I'm streaming the new season of Bosch during cooking and scrapping breaks. And so I did kind of a modified grid here on this Amy Tangerine paper. Found a whole mishmash of different embellishments, and I made it, the title be Looking on the Brightest Side of Life is a Choice You'll Never Regret. So this is kind of how we celebrated John's birthday in the middle of a quarantine for a pandemic, and this was my gift to him, was the Thanksgiving dinner for his birthday, and James's gift to him was an Astros Hawaiian shirt. This one was for a blurry photo challenge. I remember that. The photos are blurry. When I print them this small, they don't really look all that blurry. When you print them any bigger than this, they're definitely blurry. So I ran them through a filter that made them even blurrier. And then I took a fall leaf cut file and backed it with kind of birthday party colors. Again, all papers that were in my How to Kill a Kit with Style kit. And I really wanted to match. This is an outfit that we got her in Maastricht, which is one of our very favorite places to visit when we were living in Europe. And I don't have any better pictures of her in that outfit. So those are some of my favorite pictures, and I'm glad I finally scrapped them. This is a scrap lift. It was a copycat challenge. So we were to take any photo or any layout that was done in the gallery for the party and scrap lift it. So this was, and I don't have the original on the back, one that Cindy Thick did, and hers was absolutely gorgeous. She had a vertical, a strip of paper here, and then some smaller strips, and this sunburst, and a cluster down here. And I was using a larger photo than she was using, so I just had these scraps of paper in it. Everything on here, I think, is from Paige Evans' Bloom Street, except the background, which is Vicki Bouton's Let's Wander. It's one of the pre-made mixed media pages, and this is her texture paste in a rose gold, and then a bunch of Spiegel Mom Scraps sequins. So that was fun to do. This one was fun. It was a scavenger hunt sort of page. I didn't write down, there were 4 items that we were supposed to have. We were supposed to have something from outside that was smaller than our hand, something stolen, and I stole this photo of the back of John's head while he was watching television, and something, I forget what the other requirements were, to be honest, but I did this on a sheet of best creation paper from years and years ago. Used part of a cut file, had some Paige Evans sequins on there. This is a little bundle of bamboo twigs that I had just pruned from our bamboo. It's beginning to come back. Oh, some mixed media that was on here, and I applied with something from the kitchen. So I used a fork to do these blades of grass, and I forget what else was supposed to be on there. But I have some birthday embellishments, a tag. I have this tag that says keeper, and I think he is. So that was another one that was kind of fun. This is one, a storyteller challenge about something we learned or something we taught someone else. And this is about my kitchen. I filtered the photos and printed them because I wanted to do a page about how much I'm using my kitchen now and how much, because I'm cooking all the meals, including the ones that we used to all go out for and can't do that anymore. So I decided, because I kind of studied up on on kitchen design on the IKEA app, and then had to teach it to my contractor who had to do the work. We put the cabinets together, and we planned everything to fit into a cubby area, 4x8 kind of cubby hole area that was already in the house when we bought it. And so I kind of had to teach my contractor how to hang it and how to do it, because right here, just on the other side of the sink and this countertop, right there is a whole row of scrapbooking storage things. And this in particular is the holder, the kind of turntable holder that I have for my stencils. So I can sit there cooking a meal and washing dishes and figure out the next stencil I'm going to use for my next layout. And so this one has all the colors. It's messy. We had dirty dishes and stuff from a meal over here, and we had some clean dishes that were drying and a teapot that was drying out, but it was a colorful kind of photo, and I made a colorful page, told about how I'm using this, and the journaling around the outside talks about teaching Ben how to put together and get so much into a space that was that small. And it's the best kitchen I've ever had. This one was a Crafty Maggie had used a sketch by Laura Rumble, and Laura Rumble's sketch had 3 photos, 3 square photos down the center of the page, and there were banners. And I got the idea to do my banners out of these circles that were cut out of a scrap of Vicki Boutin Wildflower and Honey paper. And I love these circles, and I love that paper, and I love that collection. And I didn't have any good Vicki Boutin 12 by 12 paper to put it on, but I did have this, I think it's pink paisley from a school collection, because it's education and back to school back on here. And I always thought I'd use this side of the paper, but I think all of this went nicely. These colors do not match anything else that's on the page, but it somehow works for me. And I had this in my scrap pile, not in my How to Kill a Kit with Style kit. I had this craft with white polka dots, and I thought that would be a good background. Just for Reese on steps. These are the steps going up to the 3rd floor, and these are the steps going up from the basement to the main floor. She's waiting to be picked up from the steps. This is another one I did with a giant photograph. The challenge was to be inspired by an image which was a beach scene in a bottle. So I thought, well, I can do that. I have a bottle image on my word processor, and I dragged in a photo of the beach and put the word dream on it. I fussy cut it out so that it had the white around the black so that it would kind of stand out from whatever background I used. And because I'd selected the word dream, I remembered this Dreamcatcher cut file that I had, and I had all these papers, you've seen them before in other layouts, that would kind of color it up a bit. And then I blew up a different part of this same photograph to do the background, and I ran it through a filter. So where you see this structure right here on the other side of the chair, that's what this is, and the chair's kind of down over here. So it's a fun. This was taken. This photo was taken in Tonga when we were on a South Pacific cruise, and I borrowed some Jim Croce lyrics to say, "If I could save time in a bottle," you know, dreaming about being able to travel again someday. Here's another page with that same picture of Ava. This was a challenge that we were to use a sketch or someone's interpretation of a sketch from Christy Harriman's 30 Days of Sketches. And I chose a layout that Maura O'Reilly had done that had a couple stitched stars and then some mixed media through a stencil. I think it might have even been the same stencil. And then I die cut a whole bunch of other stars. And I used a lot of the colors that came out in the filtered photograph. That's her wall that's lined with One Direction posters. And I made everything glittery. I think everything on here other than the photograph is glittery. And instead of stitching the stars, I actually brought a star into my word processor, made it the size I wanted, fussy cut it out, traced the outline in pencil, and then ran a bead of glue, and then used baker's twine in black and white. But because it's black and white, it actually kind of looks stitched in the photograph. So anyway, that was a fun one to do. Took a lot of time, but there was no sewing, there were no needles, and no blood droplets involved in the making of that layout. This is one that I did for a Scrap Squad lift last week. And it was for Scrap Squad Sunday. The original was a stitched LOVE, and I thought, why not fussy cut instead of stitch? So that's what won. I used a Paige Evans stencil to do little bits of hearts there. I did a speech bubble on top of my husband's head, which in the photograph was cut off. I fussy cut the photo so that it would fit in there because I hadn't left room for a square photo or a horizontal photo. So I love this one, but it was extremely simple to do. And for how much of a reaction it got, it was amazingly easy. This was for a challenge to be inspired by an image, and the image was an antique map. And so I had this group of photos of Ava that are not related. They're around the same time in her life. She's looking out the window here. I love that. I love how pretty her hair is there. And here's a toothless grin with something on the table, and we had obviously been decorating the dining room for a party. She's using one of the little shopping carts that they provide at Trader Joe's. And this is where she was sitting on her brother's truck to put her shoes on. And I love her little checkered socks there. And she's trying to figure out how to do, these were Velcro. She was trying to figure out how to do the Velcro. I didn't have room when I did the layout, the size of the photos. I didn't have room to do journaling on here, so I have hidden journaling that really does insert back down into there somehow. Oops, that's coming apart. Have to fix that. And I kind of matched some of the colors there. This was, I think, the reverse of this paper. Yes, it was. So I had cut one fairly thick strip off of it and then broke it into two. And used some rose gold there. It's just not a particular story or event, just something. And my journaling kind of talks about wondering what the world will be like, wonder what kind of world will be left behind after the pandemic, and whether these kinds of things, taking her to the grocery store, something we can't do now because of her compromised immune system. And just kind of wondering, John and I had been talking about whether the kids would ever know the kind of world that we have taken for granted for 73 years. Okay, so here's one, a layout that I really cannot stand. This one was a washi tape challenge. And so I got the bright idea that I would alter some frames with washi tape, and then I would cover some cardstock with washi tape and do some die cuts. And I had these beach photos, so I kind of let that drive the fact that I was going to die cut an octopus and a starfish and a seashell and another seashell and another seashell and a turtle, and here's a sand dollar. And of course you can't, because of the washi tape patterns I picked, you can't tell what they are. But the colors are nice, and the frames didn't come out too bad, but I wouldn't make this page again. So we'll leave it at that. And this one I love. This has a, I forget what that challenge was. Oh, a cartoon color play challenge. And I picked the color palette that went with SpongeBob SquarePants because it has this purple in it, and I kind of wanted to use purple. I had this in my How to Kill a Kit with Style kit. I had this textured piece of kind of periwinkle blue that goes nicely with purple and green, and I had these purple and green scraps from Paige Evans' Bloom Street, and I had a few Bloom Street embellishments. And so I did this. This is Ava posing on the fireplace. By the fact that there are these boxes around, it must have been someone's birthday, but I just love her little kind of half smile there. So I filtered it a few times and matched it, and the photos go a long way towards doing that color palette as well there. The only thing I would do differently is with this, I colored up the yellow, and that yellow was the nod to the actual color of SpongeBob himself. This is the last one. This was, and it was the first one I did after my last week's review. This was a color play challenge, and I'm not sure what the color palette was or the color play we were supposed to do, but I there was a brown and yellow and purple, I think, were the biggies there, and this kind of darker pink. So I kind of did a grid there. These were scraps, things I had left from this collection. Is that Little Yellow Bicycle, Hello Spring, or something about spring. And I absolutely love that collection. I mixed it up with some Bella Boulevard and some other things, but this was just a simple walk around the neighborhood. We were going to go check out some of the spring flowers, and we put our masks on, and these photographs of these three purple things were taken in our own yard. So I just kind of did don't worry, be happy, kind of silly. And this was on, these photos were taken April 8th. So we had our French lavender in bright bloom, and the first of these irises had come out, and we had begun to get leaves on our really beautiful Japanese maple. So that's it for my layouts this week. That's a lot. Next week shouldn't be quite as many, although load is starting, but that's only one layout a day. I think I did about 30 pages in this time period, so this time. So thank you for watching. I'm really enjoying, didn't spend any money. None of these are new supplies. All the cut files are from my Creative Cuts Club subscription, and many of the scraps in here are from my 2 kit subscriptions with Secret Not Secret Kit Club and Mine the Scrap Kits. And then others are just things from ancient history. So thanks for watching. See you next week. I am truly loving shopping my own stash. I say that every week, and it's absolutely true. So here's my little remote. I'll see if I can turn us off here.